Hey everybody, this is Andrew Benjamin with MMA Sucker. With us, we have Sara Collins, who will be taking on Leah McCourt in the now main event of Bellator London next Saturday, September 14th. You can check it out on Max. Sara, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate you talking to us.
No worries. Thanks for having me.
So I gotta ask, you're been bumped up to the main event. I mean, how's it feel? Main event of this London card.
I don't think it's sunk in yet. I think it will sink in next week when I have to do extra face-offs and extra media and stuff. I mean, today I have 8 interviews this morning, so that's I guess part of being the main event. But yeah, I think it's fun.
So I guess you're still young in your MMA career, 5-0. Some people may not be familiar with you. Can you tell us how you got started in this crazy sport?
Yeah, so I started judo when I was about 7, 8 years old and did that till I was about 25, 26. And then the injuries just got too much in judo, but I still wanted to keep competing. So that's when I decided to move to martial arts or MMA.
Gotcha. And what made did you what I guess why take the path of MMA? Because I'm sure maybe you could have become a judo coach or judo trainer. Why choose the MMA path?
Well, I still wanted to compete myself, and I feel like that was just the natural progression. My coach went from judo and then he went into MMA, so I felt like that was just the path.
Hmm. So you had your first fight in MMA in 2019, and I'm going to guess you had the misfortune of being your MMA career being stalled because of COVID. Is that correct?
That is correct. I had a fight booked in 2020 that obviously got cancelled. And then I sat at home for 2 years until I was allowed to fight again.
So, like, was it ever? Did you still want to stick with it, or was it just kind of like, okay, I just had my first fight. I don't know when I could be fighting again. Were you just almost? Was there any time where you just thought like, you know what, screw this. I'll do something else in my life.
No, I think because we never knew how long we were gonna be stuck at home, obviously. So it was always like, oh, next week maybe we'll get back into training and fights will happen. So, and I was still studying at the time, so I always had that anyway. But there was never a time that I wanted to quit and try something else.
Okay, because I know Australia. Australia was I'll be kind. I'll say very strict when it came to COVID
Yeah,
stuff. And
it
so
was
I get,
very
hmm?
strict.
Yeah.
It was very strict, and I'm in Melbourne, and we were the most strict state. So, yeah, it wasn't a fun 2 years.
But when you were able, like when you got back into when you're able to have your first fight after COVID, did it feel almost like you were having your first fight, kind of?
No, it didn't. My first fight, I was very, very nervous for that. And yeah, no, I think it was different. It felt like I had already had a fight going into my second one. Felt more confident.
I was gonna say because whenever I ask fighters this, whenever they make their debut and it goes to a decision, they always tell the ones that always go to decision always tell me that they were nervous in their first fight. They're afraid they just kind of like were taking baby steps. Then you said that's that
Yeah.
kind of how it was with your first fight.
Yeah, definitely for my first fight, yeah, it's hard to explain. I was very, very nervous. I felt like I didn't do what I wanted to do out there. And it kind of like my body just took over and it just happened.
Mm-hmm. And then a few fights later, you get two. I'll say two big Bellator fights because they're veterans. Pam Sorensen, Sinead Kavanaugh, who've been in Bellator a long time and have relative to you more fight experience at a time. What was it like having those fights on the Bellator platform? Obviously, probably the biggest platform you've had since maybe your judo career.
Yeah, so I think the goal was always to get into Bellator and be signed and compete under the Bellator banner. And I think like every single girl in the 145 division on Bellator is good. So I just knew that going into it, every fight would be tough. Everyone would have more experience than me, but it was kind of just the reality of the situation that I just didn't really think about too much. And yeah, it was what it was.
Mm-hmm. So now with Leah McCourt, curious to know, did you know of her before you had this fight booked? If so, do you look at tape of her, or is that something you do, or you leave your coaches? Yeah, to tell us what your thoughts about her.
Yeah, so I've been a fan of women's MMA for a long time. So I have watched Leah's fights in the past, and I've been asking to fight her pretty much since I joined Bellator. This was a fight that I was interested in. I thought that style-wise, it was really good for me. And I've watched a couple of her fights recently, but not too much. I leave that to my coaches. And I think it's going to be a good fight, and I think I'm going to be able to win.
So are the rules, is it 5 rounds now, or is it still 3 rounds, 5 minutes?
As far as I'm aware, it's 3 rounds, but who knows what tomorrow will bring.
Gotcha. It's very interesting, the MMA scene in Australia, especially the last few years. We had the rise of Alexander Volkanovski. I remember seeing guys like, I don't know if you remember George Soutropoulos as well. I talked to Damian Beatdown Brown, who's is he from Melbourne? I think he's from Melbourne. No, right?
No, he's from Queensland.
Oh, okay. It's just us Americans, we just see Australia as one big city, so that's how we see it. Yeah, and it's interesting the talent that comes out of Australia. And I don't know, do you have any particular favorite fighters from Australia that you're a fan of, or that yeah, do you have any sort of Aussie MMA fan fight that you're a fan of?
I mean, I love all the Aussie fighters. I obviously watch all of them when they compete. But I think one of my favorite fighters at the moment is a New Zealander, Dan Hooker. He's probably my favorite fighter at the moment.
Okay. I've been told that I can count New Zealand because it's so close enough to Australia that it can be counted. So yeah, you're not it's like Mark Hunt. I think Mark Hunt considers himself an Australian, not a New Zealander. I think that's what I believe that's what he said. What about so being in the main event as well? Do you feel is it I kind of asked it before. It's like how you feel about it, and maybe it won't set in, but like when you saw you're in the main event, did your heart skip a beat, or did you get butterflies in the stomach? What was the sort of feeling that you got when you saw that?
Yeah. Well, first I was disappointed that Fabian and Johnny weren't fighting anymore, because last time I fought on the same card as them, and it was a really good fight that they had. So I was looking forward to watching their rematch. So I was disappointed that that wasn't on anymore. And then it kind of sunk in that, like, oh shit, now I'm the main event. And yeah, I was like, what does this mean? Do I at least get upgraded to business class on the flight over? Like,
Hopefully you do.
fingers crossed.
The other thing I also want to ask is, and judo was an interesting aspect of MMA. I feel like people that are in judo can adjust to the grappling aspect very easily. But what about the striking aspect when you first started? Was that easy to get accustomed to, or did it take a while to understand, okay, I can hit my opponent, and it's okay for that to happen?
Yeah, no, I don't think it's the hitting part that was the hardest part to adjust to. I think it's like the footwork. Like, I'm right-handed, but I fight southpaw because in judo we stand with our right foot forward. So I think just the feet movement and that part of striking was probably the hardest to change and get used to.
So what do you have you been able? Do you as you get to do as your fights go on, and you're gonna fight more and more experienced fighters? Do you feel like your judo is gonna be as easy to acclimate in those fights, or is it just you're gonna have to change up kind of that style with
Well,
the competition?
I'm hoping the judo is still easily there. Like, I never planned to do judo in the fights; it kind of just happens. So I'm hoping, like, as my fights go on, it's the same. I just end up in the situation where I can do judo, and it just happens.
Gotcha. Did you happen to see the Olympics this year, the Judo
Yeah,
Olympics?
I did. My sister-in-law went to the Olympics for judo.
Oh, well, and was there anybody who surprised you this year in terms of how well they did, or in the women's division by any chance?
I think no, I don't think anything was surprising. I think most of the winners were pretty much going to win.
Hmm.
But it was a really bad time zone to watch it in Australia. So I think I was up at like 2 a.m. every morning watching the judo finals.
Well, actually, so one of the things that got a lot of notoriety was Uta Abe, the Japanese
I know
judoka.
that was so sad when she lost.
I want to ask, so as I don't, people process losses differently, but I think she was entirely undefeated in her career, if I remember correctly. And this and that, and the woman that loss was her first loss on an Olympic stage. And I'm curious to know, like, you're undefeated in your MMA career now, but when you've lost before, like, what is the process of a loss to you?
I think it depends on how you lose as well. If I have a close fight, but I'm really happy with my performance and I did everything that I could, but I lose like split decision, I think that's not as bad as like getting knocked out in the first 30 seconds. I don't know. I will just have to wait until I lose to see how I process it. I don't know.
Mm. What do you think of the response went to because like some people called it a mental breakdown. I wouldn't go that far. Some people, were sympathetic. I mean, what do you think about the overall response to her public, I guess, reaction to her loss?
I think that she had a lot of pressure on her, and she was winning that fight when she lost, and yeah, it was heartbreaking. I could see her heart literally shatter, and her brother was competing the same day as well, so that's probably hard to go then and watch him compete and be happy for him. So I think I don't have a problem with her breaking down on the side of the mat. I feel like that was just the way she had to process her emotions at the time, and I mean, it's what she had to do.
Mm-hmm. Actually, well, so it's interesting. You said uh what do you call it? A loss or a split decision, because what happened was that in your fight with Sinead Kavanaugh, that was a split decision win.
Yeah, it was.
And well, did you think that you were gonna that they would rule they were gonna put you in as the winner, or that they're gonna judge you as a winner, or you just like, oh, I don't know.
I definitely thought I won that fight, but I definitely wasn't overly happy with my performance, and I think I could have done a lot better.
Gotcha. So for the first people that the people that might be seeing you fight for the first time next week against Leah McCourt, what do you hope people get from seeing from your fight?
I think they will hopefully see an exciting fight. I've done a lot of work in the last year to improve as all-round fighter, and I hope they are entertained.
Gotcha. I always ask this, and you don't have to answer this, but do you have a prediction for how this fight's going to go?
I don't have a prediction, but or maybe I do. Yeah, I think I'll be able to submit her in one way in one of the rounds. I think it's going to happen.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Um, and before we go, I just want to give you an opportunity to plug your sponsors, social media, gym, anybody else you want to give a shout out to.
Shout out to my gym, Resilience Training Center, and the Ring Gym, and thanks to all my training partners for their help in this fight camp.
Do you have any sponsors that you also want to? I don't know if you have any sponsors or anything that you want to also plug. Some people
Yeah,
do.
that's all right. I'll shout them out on my Instagram.
Okay, gotcha. As well, if you have any last comment or statement you'd like to make to Leah McCourt, in case she ever watches this, the floor is yours.
No, I just hope she's ready for a good fight and ready to throw down.
Great. And you can see Sara Collins take on Leah McCourt next Saturday, September 14th, Bellator London, available on Max. And thank you so much again, Sara. I appreciate you doing this. And I'm really looking forward to your fight. And yes, looking forward to the main event. Hopefully get to hear that more often. Hopefully people will get to tell you that more often, that they're looking forward to your main event.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time.
Bye.
Bye.